Hello and welcome to the Salmon's Pizzeria podcast, bringing you your slice of Scottish football. I'm your host today, Ethan Hampton of the Dens Park Choir, joined with my fellow member of the Dens Park Choir, Jake Shaw. Jake, how are you getting on?
I'm good, man. How are you?
Good. I think this is maybe only the second time we've ever been on a podcast together. I think we've been on Up with the
I think
Bonnets
so.
as a pairing once before. And of course,
Absolutely.
Jake, got you in the stage here as well. How are you getting on?
I'm not too bad. Just literally got in the door from work about 20 minutes ago, so rushing about, but here we are.
Yeah, well, we've got quite a few things to sink our teeth into. I mean, a lot going on. The Scotland squad's been announced this weekend. We're going to see the best derby British football has to offer, and the Old Firm is on as well, of course, too. So that's another thing to kind of keep an eye out for. At the time of recording, the Club Brugge Rangers game has just started, and we believe that Bruges are already a goal up. But we'll start with a reaction to the Scotland squad, guys. I don't know what your thoughts are on it. I think there's a general consensus with everyone, though, that we're all happy to see the likes of Kieran Bowie and Lennon Miller finally in the squad. However, we're still looking at some, and of course, Aaron Hickey as well. Great to see him back from injury. But we're also still seeing some names that maybe we could do without when we see the likes of Liam Kelly, Grant Hanley, and who's the other one that had three? Kenny McLean. It was take the lead.
Oh, yeah, no, I'm quite happy with the squad. It's also good to see Doak back as well. Obviously, he was out for a period of time. Obviously, he seems to be quite a bright spark in the Scotland squad, which is something we've lacked for the longest time. We've not had any natural width. So it's brilliant to see him back, especially having to travel to Copenhagen, which will obviously not be an easy game for us. But if we have quality like him that could either start or come off the bench in the game, it'll be brilliant.
Yeah, I mean, you look at that midfield department for Scotland as well. That's probably the strongest midfield Scotland's had in my living memory since the days of when we used to have every midfielder was a Premier League player. Back when we had the likes of Darren Fletcher, Charlie Adam, Graham Dorrans. I think there used to be a time where everyone was bar Scott Brown, but Scott Brown was Scott Brown.
Mm-hmm.
It was a nice, healthy pool of selection. It's kind of, I think this is the strongest we've had since that, arguably stronger. But like I say, Kenny McLean's the one that kind of sticks out like a sore thumb there. Not even getting a game for Norwich right now. So you maybe feel that maybe in the next time they do the squads, there could be some room to phase these guys out. Ones to watch. I think Josh Mulligan is one that's on the tip of everyone's tongue. Predominantly with Scotland playing a back three, could be the shout to take the right wing back role from Tony Ralston, who, of course, more often than not, is getting splinters on his arse on the Celtic bench as opposed to finding his form every week.
Yeah.
And then, I've also taken note of the goalkeeping situation. Liam Kelly not really getting a game for the Rangers. For me, I would just love to see a goalkeeper that plays week in, week out to be in the squad. So it never sits well with me seeing bench warmers called up the national pool. I'd like to know your guys' thoughts on that, though.
Yeah, I think with that one in particular, it's 5 games or so into the season, 3 league games or so into the season. It's quite hard to try and pick players based on form. So you can understand why he's going for a kind of tried and tested method. Guys he knows well. He did try, bleeding some new kind of players in during the friendlies there, and it didn't really work out, particularly with Slicker, I think. So you can see why he's chosen those players, specifically goalkeeping. And obviously with my kind of dark blue tinted glasses, it'd be nice to see John McCracken in. But when John McCracken's an option, we're in a quite a bad way when it comes to sort of the goalkeeping situation in particular.
Yeah, I think we kind of called this 10 years ago when Scotland had the likes of Al McGregor and David Marshall, good keepers, but they were getting on, that there was going to be a vacuum
Yeah.
for the national team. But I would agree. Of course, John McCracken was called up the squad last season. And it was quite funny because we felt at the time when he was deserving of a call-up, he was snubbed. And then probably at the point where he didn't deserve it, he was suddenly in the squad.
Yeah.
But we know that there's a good young keeper there. And if he keeps his place in the Dundee team, stays consistent, then he could very well be deserving of getting that again. And that'll no doubt be something that kind of encourages him whilst at Dundee to try and get back into the national team pool. But certainly he is one to keep an eye on. I think if also keeping the dark blue tinted specs on, I look at someone like Luke Graham as well, who I feel may have a future in the international scene. Maybe perhaps sooner than later. I know he's in the Scotland under-21 setup at the moment. Like I say, that would be ideal. Kind of phasing Grant Hanley out and get someone like that. And I think some people will even make the argument for Ross Graham, the Dundee United captain, much more experienced at the top flight level. I think he's only about 24 years old. I think he's ages with me. There is options in the long run. So you like to think, but that aside, it is quite a healthy looking squad. Kieran Bowie, I'm very happy to see him up.
Yeah,
He could be the striker we've been crying out for this entire time.
he could be. Absolutely could be. However, I think with Kieran Bowie, he's not necessarily a 20 goals a season striker. He is quite of a similar mould of what we have at the moment, I think, with your Shea Adams and Dykes and such. But the signs are promising, and getting him in and getting him playing now is only going to bode well for the future.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, exactly. It's good to see a lot of the youth players coming through. The one player that I'm surprised didn't get a call up was Tommy Conway. I ken he hasn't really featured much for the Scotland squad, a few appearances off the bench, but the way he's been playing at Middlesbrough, I'm sure he hit 15 goals last season for them and never got a start. So I think it's just Steve Clarke being Steve Clarke, sticking with his tried and tested, as you say.
Yeah, well, it's likely that it will be, assuming Bowie starts for Scotland, that he wouldn't play a front two, would he? It would be the one striker with the two wingers. McGinn floating out to the left. That's probably the preferred way that he likes to play. Because I think it'd be interesting to see if we could buy a striker partnership in the national team. Conway, yeah, for me, he's definitely been overlooked. I appreciate George Hurst was playing at a better level last season in the Premier League, but I think momentum is very important, especially for this team. So I would agree. I think Tommy Conway probably should be there. Likely for the expense of Hurst, and that would give Hurst all the more reason to get a boot up the arse and just performing well this season in the Championship to get his way back in the team. But it is probably the healthiest we've seen the striker pool in some time. It wasn't that long ago that we had practically no strikers at all, and that's how I had to convince Shea Adams to come in. It's nice. It's the healthiest Scotland squad in a while. So on the overall, it's it's on the positive, and there is room to grow. There is room for it to get better, as we've touched on there, which I think is quite massive. There's been many times in the past where it's like, Jesus, when does it get better here from here at this point out?
Absolutely. I think this. Go on. Sorry.
No. On you go.
I was going to say, I think this qualifying runs maybe come 6 months too early for Scotland because of your guys who could bleed in, your Mulligans, your McCowans. It's very Dundee centric, this, isn't it? But Tommy Conway, these guys, get them a run, get them a form, and then you could maybe see them being there in the fold for the big games like Denmark. You could not get a really more difficult place to start.
Yeah, I was just going to say, if that's all we've got to say on the Scotland squad, we can move on to the next talking point. But I think we're all more or less on the same page here. We'll move on to the Old Firm preview. So, obviously, the big thing just now is Russell Martin under a lot of pressure at Rangers. It's been a bit of a shit show from the start of the season. Celtic must be going into this, despite their dropping out of Europe midweek, they must be going into this licking their lips.
Yeah, but I think that's just Celtic and derbies recently. Most derbies, obviously last season, Rangers had Celtic's number for the most part. But I think Celtic and derbies, you have to say Celtic are favourites to win this one, especially this season. Rangers have had so far only picking up 3 points from the first 3 games. As it stands, crashing out of the Champions League as well. It's just not going well. I don't know how long Russell Martin will actually last this as Rangers manager.
Yeah, they seem very sluggish under Russell Martin. They're struggling to create. And now I look at this on paper. I've got my notes in front of me, and there used to be a time when Celtic would win these derbies 4 and 5-0 every time they came around. And now the feeling is with Rangers really, struggling, that this could be another bloodbath. And how damaging would that be to them psychologically to regress back into that stage? I mean, if Celtic win, full stop, they go 9 points clear at the top of the table. That's detrimental for Rangers in terms of the season's prospects.
Yeah, exactly. And I don't want to get ahead of myself, but even if they lose that game and some results go elsewhere, they could end up 10th come the international window. That's how bad of a start it's been,
Yeah,
and it definitely doesn't seem to be getting better.
and of course that's the transfer window is about to shut because there's another talking point you've got there as well. They've also got the new owners coming in, the 49ers, trying very hard not to make the same mistake Dalziel did on the Clyde radio calling them the 69ers. Um, the 49ers, and you think from their perspective, despite obviously the demands for Martin de Gaulle by some sections of the Ranger support, who realistically can come in pretty much once the transfer window shut and make things better. It's quite a big ask for the next guy coming in. Because they've not got a great pool to work with. For me, that this Rangers squad is nowhere near the level it should be to compete. I don't think they've recruited all that well. And of course, I think that speaks for itself with the way that they've been performing. Because it's not even that they've been performing well and they've been lucky with results. They've been poor and they're kind of getting what they deserve. Arguably, not enough because from
Yeah,
my perspective, Dundee should have beat them at Ibrox.
I think
Um,
I think Dundee should have beat them at Ibrox. I think Motherwell should have beat them at Fir Park, and then St Mirren should have beat them at
St
Paisley as
Mirren,
well. So they could have been on 0 points
mm-hmm.
and
yeah.
probably
Well,
should have been.
so here's the big question then. If okay, let's say you wake up tomorrow and you're Russell Martin and
Oh,
you're told
shame.
about. Yeah, I know. I just go back to bed and try and wake up and be myself again.
Mind you, well, waking up next to Lucy Pinder, it could be worse.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, good point. But in this hypothetical, if you're setting up the Rangers team at Ibrox on Sunday against Celtic,
Mhm.
I mean, where do you start? What's the best chance they've got of coming out with a positive result and try to get some sort of form of turnaround? They've obviously got a massive issue right now behind the scenes with Hamza Igamani allegedly faking an injury to refuse to play. Now he's going to be out the door away to Lille for a reported fee of roughly £10 million. So you think behind the scenes, the boat is well and truly rocking. I think some parts of it speak for itself, but in the striker department, you've got Cyril Dessers as established as the most reliable one. Then there's Danilo, of course, has a horrific injury record. Raskin appears to be out of the framework at Rangers. James Tavernier as well, struggling to get a start. I think as we speak, I don't think either of those players are starting in the current.
Well, James Tavernier's just came on because Max Aarons received a red card in the 8th minute.
Goodness me.
Blimey.
But also, I don't know if you've seen, Rangers were looking at trying to sign Bojan Miovski from Girona.
Yeah,
Girona gave Miovski the green light to talk to Rangers. I can't see that happening personally, but I don't know what you think.
I think that's one that Celtic should be looking at. I think
Yeah.
Miovski's a very good player, and with the demands that the Celtic fans have for wanting to see investment, Miovski brings that kind of natural goal scoring element that would benefit them because obviously Ida's struggling to hold up that end of the deal. It's if they're reportedly really are in for a Jamie Vardy, that's kind of the same thing that what he brings. Just a natural finisher up top, great movement off the ball, good work ethic, very fit in behind the lines, and plus it's being at Celtic, we could probably afford to sign the both of them to be honest.
Yeah.
But Miovski for me would be a very good signing, a very good replacement for Igamani if Rangers could make that work. But obviously, their problems run deeper than just the striker woes. Because, like I said, the question I'm putting forward is how do they even begin to set up at Parkhead right now that they're going into this game with absolutely zero momentum?
It's a tough one. It's a really tough one, and I'm glad I'm not the one that has to make that decision because Rangers' best hope, realistically, at this point, is to do what everybody else does and try and hit them on the break a bit.
Yeah.
Try and hit them where it hurts down the wings and things. But I just can't see past anything other than a comfortable Celtic win to 0, to be fair.
Like for me, I'd probably be looking at the start the likes of Raskin, who's kind of frozen out, and Cameron together. Just to get a team of grafters to at least, at the very least, run their bollocks off. I've always kind of felt James Tavernier could have a place in midfield. Just my thoughts personally. It doesn't always
Yeah,
have to be.
I've always thought Tavernier would do a good job in midfield. I think he's sort of lost the legs a little bit,
Yeah.
but he's still got the quality, more than enough to play in midfield.
Just what Liverpool done with Trent Alexander-Arnold, I feel that's something they probably should have done at some point. It's actually a question I asked one of the Rangers TV commentators when I was last at Ibrox, and he said his memory, he can't remember them ever even trying it. So yeah, that's one of the moves I would make to do. But as you say, I agree with you, Jake. I'm very happy I'm not the one who has to make that call, because there's some results when you're a manager of Rangers and Celtic. Look, any result that's not a win will obviously get your backlash. But this being the big one, if you make an arse out of it, if you get beaten heavily, I mean, whoever really recovers from those kinds of defeats? Feels like the right wall.
Yeah, not many teams do. It takes a special player, mentality-wise, to do that, and I just don't think Rangers have that, and they haven't for a while.
And what about the ramifications then of Celtic heading out of Europe as well? Because look, if you're a Rangers fan, you're laughing at Celtic for getting knocked out of Europe. But now on the other side, it's like, well, now they've got to bounce back. Now they've got to prove a point, and they're going to have to do it in their backyard.
Yeah.
And there's also another point. When the Celtic fans talk about wanting to see more investment from the board, it might take something like this to encourage that, because missing out the Champions League, they're missing on roughly about, I think it's a deficit of £28 million at minimum. So if they're looking at the current squad and saying, right, well, we've got a Premier League level manager in Brendan Rodgers, we've got a Premier League goalkeeper in Kasper Schmeichel, and fullback in Kieran Tierney, obviously they'll all be on mad money, but they've regressed. They're no longer qualifying for the Champions League. They've regressed. They're in the Europa League. That might be what it takes for them to then get their hands into their pockets, invest across the board, get a stronger squad. Similar to how back when Ronnie Dyler was there, they struggled in Europe early on. Rangers ended up beating them in the Scottish Cup, and it was like they went on a complete panic spree. Of course, they brought in Brendan Rodgers, which was a coup, heavily invested in the squad, and it was a night and day difference, and it set themselves up for the dominance, which in turn we'll still see today, really. Got the wheels turning in that regard. And it might just take this defeat out of the Champions League to obviously inspire a similar story once again.
I think personally, not monetary wise for Celtic, but in terms of the competition, I think the Europa League's probably a better competition for them. I think I can see them going further into that competition. Obviously, they made it to the knockout stages of the Champions League just the season just gone. But if you look at Rangers in the Europa League in the last few seasons, how far they've went, if they can go that far, I wonder how far Celtic can.
I used to think that myself as well, especially with Brendan Rodgers. I always kind of felt that would have been their preferred approach before the league phase came in, that they'd maybe prefer finishing third in the Champions League group stage, go into the Europa League and having a bit of a run at it. But yeah, obviously it's certainly one to watch. Wait and see how it gets on. But in terms of just this Sunday as well, if they're already criticising Adamida that he's not up to business, do you think he continues to start up front, lead the line, the £10 million striker that isn't living up to his end of the deal? Or you stick Maeda up there, or do they keep Maeda on the left? Because he tends to be so effective in these games, particularly when he's pressing from the left-hand side.
It's a difficult one because the games that I've watched, I think Maeda's been quite poor recently this season. He had two clear chances, 1-on-1 with the keeper to put Celtic through, and he's missed both of them. And he's missed quite a few chances this season. I don't think he's scored a goal yet this season. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Maeda, I don't follow Celtic enough to really keep track of who scores all their goals, to be honest.
He might have scored against Falkirk in the Cup, to be fair.
Yeah, he did. He scored the opening goal in that game.
But other than that, yeah. This could be his catalyst, for the season. Have a good performance, and that could be him again. I mean, speaking to some Celtic fans, they seem to think his head might be elsewhere. Creeping up to the end of the transfer window, maybe he's looking at other options. But that'll be down to what Celtic do themselves in the transfer market, I think, personally.
Callum McGregor, actually, I don't know if you guys seen it. I saw it on BBC earlier. He actually said to the press, it was kind of like a call for help, cry for help. He was like, we need players to come in, we need help. This what we're getting isn't enough. And of course, you've seen the papers with guys like Jamie Vardy and that as well. Something like that could be a massive boost for them. And if Maeda's head is elsewhere, is it down to that? Is it down to other factors? I mean, who knows? I think Brendan Rodgers has been pretty vocal as well in his press conferences that he's expecting a bit more of a backing at Celtic. One of the last times I was on this podcast, we actually spoke about this potentially being his final season at Celtic.
Mhm.
You never know. But I think generally we've all got the kind of same feeling what to expect for Sunday. I don't think we'll be in for any surprises. I think the only real surprises we'll see potentially comes in the form of the starting lineup. 18-year-old Finlay Curtis scored the equalising goal for Rangers against St Mirren last week. Could he potentially be in for a shout? Could it be actually a battle of 18-year-olds on the flank? Because, of course, with Alistair Johnston injured at Celtic, Tony Ralston had to play. He was subbed off. I think he was just completely knackered. If he's potentially picked up a knock, that's Colby Donovan might be in line for a start. You don't know. These are both players that were lined up for loan moves initially as well. Finlay Curtis was meant to go to Wraith Rovers. Colby Donovan looked set to be coming to Dundee. And now I think the Finlay Curtis one just isn't going to happen full stop. And as for the Donovan, that's sort of still hanging in the balance, obviously depending on Ralston's condition. But yeah, I think what we're expecting a bit of a bloodbath. So we'll move on then on that note to the best derby that the Scottish Premiership has to offer. One that never lets you down, never a fucking 0-0, always end-to-end stuff, plenty of goals, plenty of drama. The pendulum always changes for who's the underdogs and who's the favourites for the game. Is the Dundee derby. Of course, me and Jake will be in attendance. Well, Jake, we'll just start off with you if you got any notes to set us off. Because for me, when I'm looking at this, it's practically two new teams compared to last season.
Yeah, I'm about to poo-poo everything you've just said. So you've said that there's loads of goals. There were 14 in the last 4 games in the Dundee derby. I think this one's going to be a whole lot different. As you say, wholesale changes. It's going to be a completely different dynamic. Dundee, much better, more defensively kind of structured. Dundee United less so than they were last year. But Dundee don't have the attacking flair they had. So I think you're talking a goal wins it either way with this one, to be honest.
Yeah, looking at the stats, one of the major talking points has to be set pieces. Dundee have scored 7 set piece goals this season, whereas United have conceded 4 across their last 3 games. So that's, I think, one thing to watch out for. Obviously, Dundee got several players capable of a quality delivery. When you look at the likes of Amari Samuels, Callum Jones, Finlay Robertson, Jan Danda now, of course, in the ranks too. And it's a big Dundee team now as well. Normally, historically, Dundee can have a team of maybe some boys that have a bit of flair about them, but lightweights. Whereas now we're assembling a team of giants that might be combative and prepared for games like this. But yeah, 14 new arrivals for United. The only players they're going to have that's experienced the derby before will be Will Ferry, Vico Savelge, and Craig Sibbald. So on one hand, it's a baptism of fire for some of those United
I
players.
think Trapanovsky as well. Trapanovsky as well.
Is he not injured?
I think he'll be out injured.
Is he still injured?
I think he's
Yeah.
still injured. 'Cause I've not included Ryan Strain or Ross Graham either, who have played the derby, but they're sidelined. Yeah, Trapanovsky playing the Blue Noses off the park or something when he's, I don't know, has he won a game against Dundee? I think he has. Scored in games where they draw and they get beat.
Yeah.
So
No comment. I'm not saying anything. I'm not bigging up a single one of them. Because the last time I said anything about a United player, I said he had no ability and was hopeless, and he fired a screamer at the top corner. So I'm not saying a word about them.
I find that. What a TikTok. Yeah, so obviously with Dundee, you look at the likes of Jan Danda, Cameron Congreve, Joe Wesley as recent arrivals, and Simon Murray as well was obviously the league's second top goal scorer last season. They've got a plethora of players that can come across as potential match winners. In Simon Murray's regard, he has scored in the last 3 consecutive Dundee derbies. And it's quite reassuring on our end because normally we go into games thinking, oh no, this guy, he loves a goal against us. Now, we're on the other end of the seesaw, and I quite like it up here, to be honest.
Yeah.
If he scores on Sunday, it will be the first time a player has scored in 4 consecutive Dundee derbies since Tommy Coyne in 1987. Right now, it's been at 3 in a row. I think that was last done by Blair Spittle at United. So, yeah, I think Dundee can go into this certainly feeling they've got their tails up. It's a home game as well. You've got to bear that in mind. It's back at Dens. They're not playing plastic turf of Kelly. Defensively looked rigid. It's now just about getting the firepower all in cohesion, all linked up, all in sync. And Danda and Simon Murray were a very formidable partnership at Ross County. What better occasion now to, after 90 minutes of practice at Kilmarnock, to make it count for something, being the home debut for Jan Danda.
Absolutely. I mean, you're saying things about Simon Murray there. I think he could be the guy who gets you. These games are usually on a knife edge, right? And I think having Simon Murray in Dundee's ranks will give us that 1% that you're looking for. You're always looking to find a 1% on your opponent somewhere. And I think having him, Finlay Robertson as well, who, know what it means to play in these games, know what it means to the fans and things. And it's a bit cliche, isn't it? Know what it means to the fans, but it could be a bit of a culture shock to new boys on both sides. And this could be as you say, the Simon Murray especially could be the man who does that for us.
The midfield battle as well will be very interesting to watch. Paul Digby's going to be a big miss for Dundee, but midfield is where United are going to be at their strongest. You look at what you would expect to be the midfield three for United on Sunday. It would consist of Vico Savelge, who was the player of the year last season and deservedly so. I thought he was excellent for United. Papuche Kamara, who from what I've seen of United this season, I would consider him to be their best player. And Craig Sibbald, who again, just my opinion, but I think goes vastly underappreciated for the job that he does at United, pulls the strings very well, very good technically. That's a very good midfield three, and I think that's a battle-hardened midfield three as well for a game like this. They often say that games are won and lost in midfield as well, so it's all about again, how can Dundee combat that too. Callum Jones, I think, has a lot of grit about him. Finlay Robertson, Cesar Garza too. But in terms of how they line up, do they maybe take a more physical edge? Will Ethan Hamilton just start on the first game? Because of course he's I know a bit more of a six type midfielder, big, physical. I would maybe think it'll be a case that Hamilton, Jan Danda, I think will start in midfield. He's maybe the exception to the obviously again comparative and physical. I think it will be him to be the creative player. It'll be Jones and Hamilton to kind of be doing the dirty work in behind. What were you, Craig? Any thoughts on this?
I'm actually looking forward to it as well because I should be in attendance as well. Funnily enough, I should be going up to it. It'll be an entertaining game, definitely, and I don't want to predict a score because it could be absolutely anything. I'll tell you what, I do agree with you saying about the most entertaining derby because that it definitely is. There's always goals in it. So I'm going to say there's going to be at least 4 goals.
Oh wow! I hope not. My heart can't take it.
That's what I'll say.
I want three goals because that way it's confirmed someone has to win. Can't draw with 3 goals.
No,
a cheeky 4-0 win. Will that no,
I'd take that. I'd take that. Obviously,
we are so overdue a win of that magnitude. I think when they won 4-2 at Tannadice,
should have battered them in that game.
That should have been 6, but it's only a deficit of 2 at the end of the day. Yeah. Very, very well overdue a proper big scoreline, but again, that doesn't necessarily mean that we're due for it now. Because that's one thing. It's with United so far. They don't look as strong as they did last season on a defensive basis, but that is very uncharacteristic of a Jim Goodwin side. It's kind of like the roles been reversed. When we talk about Dundee now having more of a structure, hard to break down, that defensive rigidness. That's what you associate with Jim Goodwin, especially last season. United they were hard to break down, defensively astute, and it was a simple case that they had Sam Dalby up front who was clinical. So they're hard to beat. He gets the goal, they nick the 1-0s. They're good at set plays and throw-ins. Now they seem a bit shaky at set plays. They don't look as a full unit. But then again, you've got to consider they're missing guys like Ross Graham and Ryan Strain who massively important in that department.
Well, I've seen that firsthand. Their defensive frailties at set pieces at Tannadice this season. Obviously in the 3-2 game, we beat them there. And also last season, as you say, how well defensively done. All 3 games we played against them finished 1-0. They beat us 1-0 twice at Tynecastle. And then we beat them 1-0 at Tannadice. So it's very close games, and it just seems like you've lost all structure, as you say.
Yeah, and while the atmosphere will be, again, a baptism of fire, maybe a potential culture shock, they've still had big games this season in the form of Europe where they seem
Yep.
to give a good account of themselves as well. So they can't be undercited too much for this game, despite obviously the way we're weighing it up is Dundee look fucking brilliant in these parts, United look shit in these parts. We can't go into that with that.
But
Um,
also, for the same time, for how well they do going forward, they seem to concede multiple goals at the back. Like
Mhm.
against Falkirk, they drew 2-2, obviously drew 2-2 v Rapid Vienna, home and away.
Mhm.
So, for all the goals they're scoring, they're conceding far too many.
And in terms of United's match winners too, because I touched on Dundee having the match winners in the squad. Initially, you think of the two strikers, Zapsford and Waters, but it looks like they're both potentially out for the game. Zapsford will be touch and go from the looks of things. He's in a race against time to be fit, and he looks like a very good addition for United as well. A good
Yeah.
natural finisher, not afraid to shoot regardless of whatever angle he's at as well, and hitting the ball first time. Very important traits. Very good goal he scored away in Vienna. Uh, what other note did I have? It was more of a case that they got the new signing as well. When I touched on Sam Dalby, you might need to look at I've not got his first name here, but I think his surname's pronounced Moller.
Mhm.
Used to be in
Nikolai.
the academy, yeah. And that might be the case that with obviously Waters and Zaps are out. Moller's debuts in the derby again. What a perfect game to come into
Absolutely.
this. Um, if they can recruit well, which with Jim Goodwin's track record, his recruitment's actually been all right for United.
Mhm.
If he's got anywhere, even a fraction of the impact that Sam Dalby have, they'll be laughing.
Yeah, absolutely. I think you're right, and I think, to be fair, there's rumours going about that Moller might be cropped as well, and it could be Owen Sturton's their only real kind of thing up front. But there's no better way to endear yourself to your fans is there than to have a telling part to play in a derby. You saw that with what was his name, Jort, last year. Had a really good game in the derby. Never did anything again for 38 other games, and was lauded a hero.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Same with
no better way
Tarkowski.
to endear. Yeah, yeah. Same with Trapanovsky. Scored in that game, did nothing.
It's the platform to create cult heroes. That's what
Yeah,
it is.
100%.
But yeah,
100%.
no, like I say, I think it'll be closer than what folk would predict. But it's probably the best I felt about going into Derby for a while, and I've written about it on the BBC. In the case that I would simply rather be in our shoes than theirs in the build up anyway. Maybe I'll eat my words. Maybe I won't. We'll soon see. I'm a bit of a gambling man. It's
Yeah, I don't like having that feeling of confidence going into a derby. I hate it. I hate it because I prefer
I hate
Brendan.
confidence. Last season, I said we'd finish second, but we finished bottom six. So
Just
didn't
best not
go
to
to
tell
plan.
him. I'm going to go in with the same mindset that we're going to get absolutely pummeled because last time I went in with that mindset, we won 4-2 at a canter.
Yeah.
So we'll see. We'll see.
yeah. No, one last thing we'll say on it before we move on is we need to tell the audience to watch this space with Joe Wesley. I
Yes.
think, yeah.
Yeah.
So Dundee have signed this 21-year-old from Burnley, and he was getting rave reviews from his former manager. You may remember Ian Holloway that used to manage Crystal Palace and
Yeah.
Blackpool. He had him at Swindon, and he was basically saying that he was one of the best impact subs that the league had to offer, and he was gutted that he couldn't keep him on and develop him further. Dundee have pushed the boat out. They've purchased him outright. They paid an
Mhm.
undisclosed fee. And in the games that he's played two professional games for Dundee.
Mhm.
His debut was with Ibrox, and I thought he was tremendous. You think for
Great.
like a small guy as well, and what you read on him his goal scoring record, that he was just going to be exactly that, the wee guy that scores goals. But no, he
Mhm.
seemed to be very well in tune to wanting to get in the thick of it, wanting to get physical, wanting to hold up the play. Link
Mhm.
up was excellent. And you can sense he really has that poacher's goal threat about him. He thought he'd scored at Kilmarnock. I think it would have went down as an own goal anyway.
Mhm.
It was disallowed because Simon Murray was offside in the build-up. And I know that in the bounce games they had for the free week, he was the only player to have scored for Dundee
Yep.
across the two bounce games too. So yeah, simply a case of with Simon Murray obviously being a proven threat in this division. He's a good goal scorer, but I wouldn't say Murray's necessarily a great finisher, if that makes sense. A great natural finisher. Quite a lot of times, if Murray's got time to think about it, he won't score. He's actually better instinctively.
Mhm.
Whereas Wesley seems to be a much more natural 9 in that
He's
regards.
basically Murray's better like snapshots
Yeah.
scoring that way.
Yes. Yeah.
Cross balls and things, he'll always get on the end of it, He's really good at it. But his game, to be fair, Ethan, his game over
I'll
the
tell you
last...
what, Wayne Murray, you wouldn't think he was in his mid-30s the way he runs about.
Well, you're right. You're right. It's like a headless chicken sometimes, they say, but it's all, there's method to the madness. It's always shutting down, the ball. It's always just being tenacious and getting in the way. We really, really missed him when he was out injured there for a couple of games. I thought against Rangers he would have had a field day.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Especially the home game against Hibs as well. You could see it. There was no press. There was no energy because the smaller effect that has leading the line, it rubs off on the rest of the team. Never mind just being the captain, just being a striker that's being the first line of defence as well as the best line of attack. That rubs off on everyone else. 100%, absolutely. Well, if that's everything we've got to say on the Dundee Derby, guys, we can move on to your field, Craig, with the Hearts Motherwell game. From what we'd seen, Motherwell have recruited very well. Reagan Charles Cook is a coup. He's yet to play, but Jordan McGee is also an excellent signing. Callum Hendry, very good business. And in the games we've seen Motherwell, I thought they were very good against Rangers. And there were how many teams were 3-0 up at Tynecastle? They seem to be a side that if they could just convert these draws into wins, then it'll be happy sailing under the new manager. I do think the keeper maybe should do better for the last two Hearts goals. I'm confused as to why he's starting ahead of Oxborough. But talk us through it. The Hearts comeback.
Oh wow! Everything happened in that game. I don't know how we got a point from that. Motherwell absolutely battered us for the first hour. Honestly, I think they could have been 4 or 5 up. But no, Motherwell were excellent, and I genuinely think they'll be contenders for top 4 this season. Based on the games that I've watched them, they've been that honestly midfield. That the boy Just in the midfield, he was brilliant. But if they want to be top 4, they need to sort out their defensive issues. And also, obviously, at the end, their Hearts could have won the game in the end, which I would never have thought 63 minutes into the game.
Well, I've basically just kind of outlined everything that I'd seen from the game. I watched the highlights, of course. That was my first thought. It wasn't like, wow, Motherwell messed up at 3-0 up. It was just how many teams can go to Tynecastle and go 3-0 up in the first place? They're doing a lot more right than they are wrong. It just takes a bit of polishing and they'll go far. Top 4, that's quite the shout. I certainly think they'll be top 6 contenders. Serious top 6 contenders.
I wouldn't even say contenders. I think they're dead set for top 6, generally. But also at the same time, on Saturday, they are. Personal, I forgot what I was going to say there.
It happens to the best of us. Again, you got to praise Hearts though as well. Like the comeback from 3-0 down, that shows a lot of tenacity. Because for some players it'd be easy to kind of chuck the towel in as well, go a bit of damage control, but they managed to call the way back. And as you said, they almost won it. I think how's it go? All you need is Claudio Braga.
Something like that. I remember what I was going to say. Last season, the only teams to score 3 goals at Tynecastle were Celtic and Rangers, and even Rangers had to rely on 2 own goals from Jamie McCart.
What a stat for you. There you go.
So that's how well Motherwell done, and that's how difficult it is to score 3 at Tynecastle.
Yeah, we're looking at how the top 6 race is shaping up on early days. You think it'll be like, obviously it goes without saying that you've got the Old Firm will be up in there. Well, contentious maybe, I don't know. Hearts, Hibs, Motherwell. I'd even throw my pence in for St Mirren.
I think St Mirren. I think my top 6 will be Celtic, Rangers, Hearts, Hibs, Motherwell, St Mirren.
And yeah, that's exactly what I'd go with. And Aberdeen, I reckon, are going to fall out back in the bottom set.
Yeah.
I can't argue with that.
My show is Jimmy Thelin will be sacked by February.
Oh.
So what was you saying, Jake?
I was going to say I can't argue with what you were saying, but I think that's a great shout. I think yet another manager, Stephen Presley's going to oversee.
Going to outlive them all.
Get them all. We'll outlive them all. Long live Presley. No, honestly, I think that's a great shout. I think the poor end of the season was the cracks were really papered over by winning the Scottish Cup, which, I mean, if you're going to paper over the cracks, that's the way to do it. But yeah, I think you're right. Poor end to last season, poor start to this season. Sugarly peg.
I'm sure I've seen a stat that from November last season, they had only won 3 games from then to the end of the season in the league.
I've just got this picture of Stephen Presley sitting there on his own wee island, and he's watching all these other HMS ships piss the league.
Oh, Jesus Christ!
They're all sinking around him, and he's just sitting there with his was they say on the Dundee podcast, he's got his bonsai tree doing his
Zen bonsai tree in the Zen garden, yeah.
Just giving us a good long live the king, baby.
Sorry, I just want to point out it's now Club Brugge 5, Rangers 0.
Yeah.
And another thing, Grimsby are 2-0 up against Man United.
I've seen that. I was trying to figure out how to put a chat in this thing just to point out.
I'm sure that could be edited out.
Live reaction here at the pizzeria pod. It's fucking madness.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
I mean, given we've seen Rangers start the season poorly, I don't think I've ever seen Rangers start the season this poorly.
Right, half time talking point, guys. Does he have to go?
Honestly, I think he'll be gone after the full-time whistle.
Ethan, is the tie over?
Oh, Jesus Christ. I forgot about that.
That's a screamer.
God. But that's the thing, we were joking about at the start of the pod, 40 minutes ago, that, it could very well be that he's on a sugarly peg by Sunday. He could be gone. And we were joking about that 5-0 at half time. God knows where this ends with 10 men. It could very well be curtains for curtains.
Poor old Russell Farton. I mean, here's one thing I will point out as well. So when Rangers tend to have managerial vacancies, right? The past few years, I remember they were linked with Giovanni van Bronckhorst, and I remember saying at the time, nah, they won't get him. But like, he wouldn't want to come down to Rangers. And then, of course, he takes the job, and I thought, wow, fair enough. They've probably brought in the best possible appointment that was available.
Yep.
Then he leaves, and they bring in Michael Beale. And again, I thought, why would Michael Beale want to go back to Rangers? He's doing well at Birmingham. And sure enough, it's the same thing. I thought, okay, let's be fair. That's probably the best appointment available. It didn't work out. Pardon me, it didn't work out that way. But I think that was the right guy at that point. Or the best they could have brought in at that point. I should reword that.
With who was available.
Yeah, I think when Clement got it was between him and Muscat, I think, or how it's pronounced. And I remember thinking, Clement would come across the better candidate between the two of them. They got their man, but again, it didn't work out. This time, though, I don't really feel there's anyone particularly obvious. And when they brought in Russell Martin, I didn't feel that was the best candidate available. But I could appreciate, obviously, if there's a method in the madness, if they just want to go a completely different direction previously, maybe impress Russell Martin with maybe a style of play. So I'll raise that question now. Then let's say they're getting his jotters lined up as we speak. He's gone at full time. Who do you bring in? Who is the best candidate available? And don't say Ange.
That's a really tough one. Like
Barry Ferguson 2.0.
Okay, get the staunch squad back. Ferguson and McCann and McGregor, get them all in.
Billy Dodds. No, but that's a good question. I can't even think of anyone off the top of my head that they could bring in.
Because the task.
Would they go back to Gerrard?
Would they go back to Gerrard?
Well, that was the conversations in the summer, wasn't it?
It was.
But then again, it's like, do you take Gerrard without Beale? Would that work?
But when they appointed Steven Gerrard, I thought they'd done the right thing in regards to the plan. It wasn't pressure to win immediately. They gave him a couple of years to build something and then challenge. And I think that they have to do that again. That they're so far behind.
They pulled the trigger far too early.
Would they give Gerrard time to build another potential title-winning team? That's the way they've got to look at it. It can't be an appointment to win immediately. Their fans will say otherwise, but realistically, they need someone that will need 2 to 3 years to build something. And I think stop the 10 all over again. They're in the exact same spot as they were 4 or 5 years ago.
Yeah,
I think it's just a poison chalice. Like, what person seriously would want to take that job?
Yeah. No, I agree. Totally agree. I mean, you see the media scrutiny that you get just by walking in the door. every move you make is, really, really picked on and picked apart. I don't see anyone who would be sane enough to take that on.
I maybe know one guy. He's not been in Dens Park very long, but I would back him. He's stolen my heart. He's
The luscious locks.
he's got a reputation for proving the doubters wrong so far.
It's been 3 games.
I mean, it's a perfect fit. A man no winning titles going to a club that didn't win titles.
He's not their man.
He's not their man. Yeah, no, Like, I posed that question, but I can't think of anyone from the top of my head. Honestly, it's such a massive rebuild job, and it's the timing too, because we're talking the transfer window shuts in like 4 days.
Yeah. So I think they've got to give them till January at the very least. But by that point, the league's gone.
Based on what's happened so far, they'll be in a relegation battle.
That's genuinely though. They could be struggling to make top 6 by the end of the season if they do keep them on. So it's.
I've not seen a Rangers side this poor, and my team was in the championship with them.
Yeah.
I'll play devil's advocate for just a moment and say, had you said Hibs should keep David Gray last year around about Christmas time, and you said I think they should keep him because he'll get them back to 3rd place, I think 9 people out of 10 would slap you in the face and take you to a mental ward.
Yeah.
Because I'm not saying Russell Martin's going to have the turnaround, but
I wouldn't have said that. But also at the same time, under David Gray, you could see Hibs were trying something.
Yeah,
it wasn't going their way all the time. They were getting men sent off. There was some goals here and there, like the Derby game that we drew 1-1. Like they should have won that game as well. Mm-hmm. It was just little things. Whereas under Russell Martin, there seems to be no style of play whatsoever. Or even if you find you, there's no plan B if plan A doesn't work.
That should be a lesson for guys like Lyle Cameron as well, like signing a pre-contract before knowing who the manager's definitely going to be. Because this, it just seems to be
I found that a mental decision from him going to Rangers, if I'm honest. Maybe obviously money would be massive, but
I think development-wise, if he's wanting to go up a level, Rangers have got a brutal record at selling players. Especially when you compare to someone like Aberdeen. I think Aberdeen have got a much better record in selling players, especially in the top 5 European leagues, if you just look at the record over the past few years. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. I would say you've got to give him probably till January time, Jake. I think you've got just because it's just not practical to sack him right now. There's not an obvious option, and I get what you're saying, Craig. Fans could see a form of progression with David Gray. They saw the silver linings. They could see how it could turn out if it works well. Rangers fans absolutely aren't seeing that right now, but maybe that's part of the challenge. Maybe Russell Martin feels like he's got to move on an awful lot of deadwood first, which was the case. If you look at another rebuild, for example, Arsenal with Mikel Arteta, it was not an instant turnaround. That took a couple of years, and initially, rather than bringing in the heavy hitter players that they have now, the biggest task was actually moving on the deadwood that was keeping the club down. I think he finished mid-table, like 12th and 8th, back-to-back twice before he got them back to European football again. So maybe there's a similarity to draw there. Maybe he's got to look at the team. That's maybe why Raskin and Tavier are kind of out of the picture a little bit. For me, though, I would be taking Raskin and starting him on Sunday, but that's just me. I don't know what's going on.
I just think you've got to start your best players, and Raskin for Rangers, personally, I think their best player right now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree. Do you think he's maybe underestimating the domestic side of things a bit by resting these kind of players in the league games so far when getting off to a strong start is so important?
Does he underestimate? Probably. But I'll be honest, I think maybe Brendan Rodgers is guilty of that as well. I mean, that whole thing came out about him saying how boring the league is. Like, I don't know if you guys had seen that. That was before the cup final against Aberdeen. It said that to his players. I've always kind of thought secretly that they must kind of see it as boring, the day-to-day stuff boring. They must only be excited about the cup finals and the European games. There's definitely got to be a complacency there.
There will be.
The attitude that they used to have in the past, where they had guys that were proper, lack of a better term, just warriors that were willing to fight for the badge week in, week out.
Yeah, well, the last time you had that, where there was loads of teams competing for the league, was back in the 80s.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. And we could be looking at, well, maybe not battling for the league, but certainly battling for second and third and such. I think you'll have a few teams this year.
Yeah,
There'll definitely be a lot more teams up there this season. Obviously, Hibs, Hearts, Celtic, well, maybe not even Rangers.
The league's really competitive this year.
Yeah.
It really is. But at both ends, I think you're going to see quite a split between maybe 6 or 7 teams and then the rest. But it's both sections are going to be really, really, really tight, I think. And from the start of the season that we've seen, there's nothing to suggest otherwise so far. Everything's been really a lot of draws so far.
Yeah.
thing is, the window's still open. All it can take for some teams is just like that one big signing or a couple of signings of real quality. I mean, one team right now in dire need of reinforcements, and even their rumour mill appears to be super dry. And I don't mean super dry as in the cool jackets. I mean super dry as cobwebs in an unspanny. They've got nothing going on for them right now. The reinforcements they have got, and I said this on the previous pod, guys like Brian Graham and Scott Bain. Scott Bain as a signing I could maybe kind of understand, but not to be number one. And then Brian Graham, guy's in his late 30s. I appreciate he's not going to be a starting striker, but is that really the depth you're looking for? Is a aging striker almost 40 from the Championship?
Yeah, no, I don't think. I feel bad for Nicky Hogarth because he done so well for Falkirk in the Championship last season, and then you bring in Scott Bain, who played two games for Celtic last season, even if that, and he's in and is starting. I think he's been harshly treated personally.
I agree. I think they would, and in our pizzeria group chat, come the end of last season, there was genuine talk of if Nicky Hogarth can keep his number one spot and keep performing well, given the goalkeeping situation going on at Scotland,
I said that as well, even when they were in the Championship, because I'd been to watch Falkirk a few times last season, and the both times that I went, he was brilliant, and it's not like we've got a lot of options, so why not give him a chance? If you're calling up players like Kieran Slicker, if you're getting him in, surely to God you could bring in Nicky Hogarth.
Yeah, even just for a squad and see how he is.
Exactly. Yeah. There's no harm in doing that.
Exactly.
I beat this drum all the time with the national team. It's got to be players that, at the very least, are playing every week and that they're building form because it's deserved. To me, it's not just meant to be the elite players; it's players that are there on merit.
I'll go back to what I said at the start of the podcast, though. This particular international break, that's really tough to do.
It's only 3 years.
Yeah. But next one, we should see a real kind of change in the.
Also, how many times have we said that under Clarke, where we should see a real change? We should see this player in, this player in. Like Shanklin last season, 30 goals in total. Take him to the Euros, and you're still starting like Shea Adams over him.
Yeah, absolutely. Even
and I said last season, the season just gone, I think that knocked his confidence. Part of the reason why he didn't do as well as he done the previous season, because he thought you're going there, 30 goals, you expect to start. I would personally, anyway.
Absolutely, I agree with you there. I think that could be a reason behind his I was going to say poor form. He still scored a few goals, but his form last season. But even just there, the two friendlies, was it Iceland and Luxembourg we played?
Yeah.
We had the chance to try these guys out, try out your, again, going back to my
try your Bowies, your Wilsons, your Millers.
Exactly. All these
Simon Murray's.
Simon Murray.
Specifically Simon Murray. Although I don't really like him, but I do think he should have been called up, especially for the friendlies.
Just experiment. Yeah, well, what could possibly go wrong in a friendly? I mean, he tried Slicker, and obviously that is what could go wrong. But again, that means nothing. It's all about to see, okay, here's players that maybe were in the running but didn't get the call up. Let's see what they're actually capable of. Are they better than what we've got? Do they add a dynamic that we don't have that could suit us? You mentioned earlier, Jake, the strikers Scotland have, they're all very similar. So if you can have different dynamics in your squad, different ways of playing, what if you're in a game and it's not going our way, we need to tinker things around? Oh, crap, all the strikers we've got the exact same strengths and weaknesses.
Yeah.
We've got a proper way of tinkering.
We've not got a striker to run in behind, really.
And imagine the message that sends out. Let's say Simon Murray got called up for that friendly against Iceland. The message that sends out to the rest of the Scottish Premiership is, look, if he can do it, the door's open for you as well.
Mhm.
But instead, it's like we're almost kind of punish players in the League. There's
Yeah.
plenty of times where I also think of the time when Luke McCowan was doing the business for Dundee, and he was undercited in favour. I think it was Ryan Gauld that was playing in the MLS.
Yeah.
Now, I've been to enough MLS games to know.
I mean,
that
I'm sorry, stuff Ryan Gold. Ryan Gold was all right in the MLS. Ryan Jack
Ryan
had to
Jack was
get
the other one,
called
yeah.
up.
I'm not
Actually,
saying anything against Ryan Jack right now. I will hold my thoughts on Ryan Jack just for a couple of days.
Like, if Ryan Jack's getting called up over Luke McCowan, I'm sorry, there's something going on there.
yeah, especially 100%.
and like I say, I think they've got to rate the league, and you've got to reward players in your own league. Because MLS is not as good a standard as the Premiership. I've seen it more than enough times in the flesh.
It's probably more entertaining, if I'm honest, but in terms of the quality, it's
Yeah.
nah.
So I think I don't know. It felt to me that he's fallen into the PR trap, trying to keep some people that were upset happy. Whereas I think it should for me it should have been McCowan instead. I had another point to make there, and elevates very well what we're talking about. What can we expect to see before the window shuts, guys? Because funnily enough, you mentioned Ryan Jack, you mentioned the Scotland team. Ryan Jack is currently in talks with Dundee. We'll get your thoughts, Jake, as well, on how you think that would bode as a signing. I put my tweet up earlier. I'm kind of caught in two minds about it. I feel he probably is worth bringing on. But on one hand, he could be like Kevin Thompson, where he's a very good midfield player that kind of raises the levels around him. On the other hand, he could be like Kevin Thompson, and he's always injured, and you get the waste of the signing.
Yeah, well, I didn't. Do you know something? Kevin Thompson was excellent for us, and when he played, we played well. And I'm hoping Ryan Jack would have the same kind of impact. He's exactly what we're missing in the midfield. A bit of a bastard, you know, someone who will get, stupid yellows and things, and someone who will shore things up if we're, needing someone on for the last 25 minutes. So I think if you structure his contract properly, it's a really good signing. He's not going to be cheap. So what you need to do, and the Courier kind of alluded to this on their story about him, was, have a base contract and have a lot of kind of bonuses for appearances and things. So almost a pay-as-you-play kind of deal, but not quite. So I think it'd be a great signing for Dundee if we get a fit Ryan Jack.
And of course, if the deal is structured that way, ideally as well.
Yeah, can't go fully gung ho on how much you're spending on bringing them in.
And for what it's worth, he would just be playing Premiership football. It's not as if he'll have midweek in Europe as he used to do. He's playing so much. Already out the League Cup as well. So it would just be Premiership and Scottish Cup action. You would probably favour him in that mould to probably play more games compared to when he did at Rangers. And there's a question as well. Given the current predicament Rangers find themselves in, could they actually be doing with someone like Ryan Jack?
Someone like Ryan Jack.
Yeah.
Probably not Ryan Jack, though.
Not Ryan Jack.
Yeah. He played, 27 games, I think I saw, last season for his Turkish team. So,
I actually forgot where he went to be honest.
Yeah, it's Turkish second division, somewhere I couldn't
Is that no where Lundstrom is as well?
He's just moved to, they were on the telly the other day, Hull, maybe?
Hull he's moved to?
Somewhere like that. One of these kind of mid-table championship teams. They had a transfer embargo and it got lifted. I think it must have been Hull then, yeah. Had a transfer embargo, got lifted and signed loads of players in the free. I think he's one of them.
That's tremendous because I love that trend right now. That takes the mick out of Hull. That you're getting mauled by the Tigers. You're getting pecked.
So good.
You're getting shafted by the D. I'm in love with it.
Pecked by the chickens.
It's so good.
It's so simple, but it's so good.
It's simplicity can be elegant sometimes.
It can be. Less is more.
So we talked a bit about Ryan Jack. We touched a bit on Miovski as well. Going to Rangers. I had an Aberdeen fan tell me today as well that apparently Miovski did actually make a statement to say that the only Scottish club he played for is Aberdeen. So it'll be interesting to see if he goes back on his word.
By the way, I'm just saying Stuart Findlay said the exact same whilst at Kilmarnock. So
yeah. And now he's scoring doubles at Hearts. What a guy.
He should have been called up. I'm sorry, he should have been called up for the Scotland squad.
You know what?
Not a daft shout, because you've got Grant Hanley in the squad. So, not a daft shout. Not at all.
My fridge is faster than Grant Hanley. It's
Honestly,
broken.
I've seen milk turn quicker.
Yeah. So, is there anything more expect to see? I think obviously I kind of touched on Jamie Vardy potentially coming to Celtic. I would feel that's kind of likely given the circumstances. The Leicester connection, Schmeichel and Rodgers are already there as well.
Doesn't necessarily need to be done by Monday either,
Yeah.
to be fair. So he can bide his time a wee bit with that one. But I think
Not
he'll give
sure.
Celtic exactly what they're missing because they have got big lump up front and now he'll give them what they need.
I mean, we're all saying big lump. He still scored 20 goals last season for them. So,
6-0 Bruges.
oh Jesus Christ!
This
I
is
think
Bring
that's
the man
I think that's the tie definitely over.
I think so. I think it could be. That might be the killer.
Yeah. Oh wow. 6.
Yeah.
I hope there's 3 more goals and we can say I'd really hate to be a Rangers fan right now. But I don't know. When we talk about signings as well, I obviously mentioned Falkirk, worried about their lack of business. We'd also draw a thing about Livingston as well. They had a lot of slagging off for the signings they brought in, but the argument I've made is, well, they're bringing in players that suit them, players that are ready for a scrap.
Yeah.
I actually feel like Livingston's. I've not seen them in the flesh yet, but I think they've been playing better football than they had last time they were in the Premiership.
Well, the thing is, I think Mo Salah, had a nightmare at the last game, not tracking his runner. Shock.
No way.
Yeah. No way. Uh,
Water's wet, fire's hot.
Okay, there.
But he's a combative midfielder. He's very tidy on the
Yeah.
ball. So it's when if they're in the middle of a scrap and they just need someone to kind of break it down and get it on the deck, play it clean, he can do that. But he's also got the physical edge.
Yeah.
Guys like Zach Rudden and Stevie May are more than capable of performing in scrappy games, scrappy affairs, up for duels, leading the press. So whilst on one hand you can say one-dimensionally the signings don't read good on paper, they will suit the way that David Martindale wants to play. And that's where I draw that line with Falkirk. It's like, well, what Falkirk are bringing in don't seem to be
No,
adding the appropriate strength.
I don't think that they've brought in much Premiership experience,
No.
really, which is I think one of their issues.
I praised them before, though, because I said at least they're not panic signing. Because me and Jake, we'd seen that with Dundee when they had 10 days of SPL preparation. They started bringing in Colin Nish, Davide Grassi,
Yeah.
and all the rest of it. And they just
I
they
will
weren't
say
up to
Jim
that.
McAllister was signed at that point, though, and I love him.
Yeah, well, he was signed for the first division team, so he's not a panic signing in my book. He was always part of the plan. I want to feel, but I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. I love him.
Definitely wrong. He signed the day before we played Kilmarnock, but okay.
Oh, there you go. So yeah, no, that's all I've really got in terms of the transfer. Unless you guys got more to add on to that, just thinking out loud.
I think Hearts are probably looking to sign another goalkeeper. I've not heard any names, unfortunately. I wish I knew that, but we do need another goalkeeper because obviously Craig Gordon's out injured, Ryan Fulton is out injured, so we are down to 2 keepers, Liam McFarlane and Xander Clarke. And obviously with Xander Clarke's injury issues last season, that could go down to 1 very quickly.
Yeah.
We need a right back as well, sorry. Obviously, we recalled Adam Forrester from St Johnstone, and he's not started a single game since he came back. So the point in that was there was no point.
Okay, yeah, and I think that's us.
I think so.
Yeah. All right. No, good stuff. We'd like to thank you all for tuning in to the Salmon's Pizzeria podcast. Hope this is up to your satisfaction, up to your standards. This is Ethan, Jake, and Craig signing out.